So, Justice League is coming out.
Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Oh my goodness, no. Not another DCEU movie. Oh, their track record's been all over the place. Batman vs. Superman was bad. Suicide Squad was worse. And Wonder Woman was alright. Oh, how are they gonna ruin the Justice League? Wait a minute. This doesn't look bad. What is... Oh my god. No. Oh my goodness, no. Oh my gosh. This actually looks good. And oh my gosh. Just... Oh no. Is that's Cyborg? Booyah! Oh my goodness. And Aquaman 2? Oh my goodness. Oh no, no, no. This is amazing. No. This is better than amazing. All of my favorites coming on screen for the first time together. Then, oh my goodness. This is... What? Hold on. Wait. Okay guys, so let's get this review started. I am here in my dad's garage because, you know, I don't have a room set up to where I could just record. And you know what? This is the quietest place in the house, so we're gonna go with it anyway. Justice League is the newest addition to the DCEU franchise and is directed by Zack Snyder and partially by Joss Whedon. The film stars Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, Ray Fisher, and maybe Henry Cavill? I don't know. He died in the last movie, but you know, they announced that he was going to be in Justice League before BVS even came out, so is he in it? Who knows? He is. Spoiler alert. As we all know, this movie had a bit of troubled production. Zack Snyder's daughter unfortunately committed suicide, and this caused him to have to leave the director's chair to go tend and be with his family. Joss Whedon was quickly brought in to replace him, and this eventually led to extensive reshoots. Now, despite all of that and the two directors and all of these reshoots and such, the movie does feel pretty consistent as if it's directed by one person. It's got a pretty consistent tone all throughout, which I should mention is far more lighthearted than a lot of the previous DCEU films. The movie actually cracks jokes, the superheroes actually have fun, and they kind of remind you of hope, like this entire franchise has led you to believe they're all about. I mean, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, they all talk about hope and everything like that, but you never really get the sense of that up until now. Seeing all these superheroes on screen together is freaking amazing. They all work so well together. The characters in this movie are pretty amazing. The leads, the superheroes, the actual Justice League themselves, they're all freaking amazing. They all work off of each other. You could tell that they're having a ton of fun portraying these superheroes and everything. It's pretty great that we actually get to see them all brought on screen for the first time together, and some of them like just on the first screen for the first time in general. They have great character development and everything. Some of their backstories feel a little shoehorned into this movie, but we'll get to that later. But just the way that the entire team works together, the way that they play off of each other is freaking amazing and just a ton of fun to actually just watch. It's easily the greatest highlight of this entire movie, just seeing them all like interact and work off of each other. It's great. I was freaking out the entire time that they were all together. I'd have to say that a standout for me from the Justice League themselves would have to be the Flash portrayed by Ezra Miller. He was an absolute blast to watch and just made the movie a ton more fun. He'd crack jokes and be like the really awkward character. He's the one that hasn't been a superhero, but he wants to actually like do all these astounding things, and he's just kind of thrown into the mix with the Justice League, and it's a ton of fun to watch, and it's really great to see his character grow as the film progresses. Now, as great as it was seeing all those characters on screen together, and as fun as it was seeing them all like interact with each other and do what they do best, that doesn't really save the movie from a couple of flaws. The film itself is very jumbled together. The story is very, very rushed and cluttered. And this is mostly because Warner Brothers had set a mandate dictating that the film had to be, at max, 2 hours long. And I think they did this to try to fit in more movie screens, to fit in more screenings at the movie theaters, and to try to get more money, and then even release an extended cut down the line on home release. I think the movie very well could have benefited from an additional 30 minutes. You could easily see this movie being like 2.5 hours long, like most films are. And so it really could have benefited with that extra footage and that extra development. Because as well as the superheroes are developed, the villain, Steppenwolf, is just absolute dog shit. He is horrible, very forgettable, typical CGI monster that's like, oh, I'm gonna take over the world, and I'm gonna do it because I'm evil. Here I am, twirling my mustache. He's horrible. He's forgettable and generic and just the worst.
Primitive beings.
Primitive beings? They fired a missile at you, dude, and you're the one standing here with a glowing battle axe. Yep, that's right. A gun is more primitive than a gigantic bludgeoning tool. Just... he's not good at all. He's bad. He's not a great villain. I found Jesse Eisenberg more of a threat, and I hated Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. The worst casting choice in the history of ever. And because the movie is so cluttered and everything, you of course have to introduce some of the core Justice League members, as in Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg. They were mentioned in Batman vs. Superman. Wonder Woman was the only character that was mentioned that got her own solo standalone film that explained her story. So these three characters had to have their story explained to us in this movie, so you could really know where they're coming from. I think the Flash, his backstory was the one that was most that was integrated the best into the story. But Cyborg and Aquaman, their backstories felt very forced into the movie. Aquaman, for example, we have Mira just give us a huge exposition dump on where Aquaman came from and what he's supposed to be and everything like that. And it's like, we didn't need any of this. You know, we already had a good enough idea of this character where the first time that we see Aquaman, he says that he does what he does because he wants to help the people that can't be helped. That's more than enough motivation for us to get behind, to be able to be like, yeah, I can like Aquaman right now. He's a good character. We didn't need that huge exposition dump to tell us where he came from. Save that for the Aquaman movie because, like I said, that one little line of dialogue that he gave was more than enough to get us behind what he was doing. Cyborg, his backstory is a little weird in this movie because Batman vs. Superman, as we all see in that film, they set it up one way, but this movie contradicts that. They say it happens another way, or at least at another time, some other way, and so, I don't know, that was a little weird. That's more of a nitpick of mine, that's not so much of an issue. But again, they do go over it in this film, even though after we see it in Batman vs. Superman, we've already know a bit of what his origin is, and they just kind of repeat everything that you already saw. They don't add any new information, really, other than that, oh, I was in an accident. But I'm pretty sure they say that in Batman vs. Superman. I could be wrong. I've only seen that movie once, and I could not bring myself to watch it again because I don't like it at all. So yeah, a bit of the backstories just felt more like exposition dumps. They'd have one character literally just tell you what it is, instead of it actually being, like, interwoven well into the film's plot. And then Superman's resurrection kind of... Oh god, I'm sorry, Henry Cavill, he's not in this movie despite the Warner Brothers announcing that he'd be in this film before Batman vs. Superman even came out. So he's in this movie, obviously. And whenever they bring him back, or whatever, this is also another thing that's kind of a bit more of a nitpick, in my opinion. But, like, Batman vs. Superman, at the very end, you see the little dust grains float off his coffin, like the same way that whenever he was about to take off for the first time in Man of Steel, how the dust floated around him, you know. So Batman vs. Superman told us that he was still alive, but then in this movie he's dead. He's actually dead. So they have to resurrect him, you know. He's not just like, oh yeah, I just kind of just flew out of my coffin when no one was looking and have just been living all alone making music like in Brad Pitt's character in Megamind, I guess.
I have eyes that can see right through lead.
But so Superman's resurrection just felt a bit weird, and they also kind of, a lot of people were freaking out about like, oh, Superman's amazing in his resurrection scene. And I just kind of felt it like, okay, this is just a little pointless tacked on fight for the Justice League right here, that they have to fight Superman, very minor spoiler, but they have to fight him for a little bit, and it just feels kind of pointless. There was really no need for it, except for the fact to justify the entire Flash vision from Batman vs. Superman, where the Flash is like, Lois Lane is the key, Batman! She's essential for the future! I got my weird mustache, and yeah, she's important. Bring her in here, into this movie, so she has some kind of purpose. And so that just felt like it was just there to fulfill what Batman vs. Superman had already set up. But there is one amazing moment with the Flash in this sequence that I was just losing my mind. Like, I love comic books and everything, so just seeing this happen, I was just geeking out right beside my sister in the theater room, just losing it, because I was like, oh my god, this right here is amazing. I love that little moment right there, but I hate I don't hate it, but the rest of the scene is kind of unnecessary, even though it did give us one really kick-ass moment right there. God, I love it so much. But, and then the movie, again, you know, they kind of keep jumping all over the place, where I've said that it kind of feels cluttered, is because they kind of jump to this random family, off somewhere. I don't remember what country they say. I think it's in Russia, if I remember right. But so they keep jumping back and forth to this family, and they don't really add anything to it, you know? You see that Steppenwolf is kind of hiding out where they, in the village that they live, pretty much. And so these families are being affected by the parademons that are floating around, and just everything that Steppenwolf was doing to the land in general. And so the movie keeps jumping back to us to kind of show us, like, oh, there's something at stake, but I don't know, I never really got that sense from it at all. And so they just kind of felt like a bit of a tacked on thing. They weren't bad, per se, but they weren't necessary. And so I feel like kind of cutting them out and replacing them with a bit more of footage that could have like really drove the story, or maybe even like helped develop Steppenwolf, I feel like that would have benefited the movie more. But so despite all of these flaws with the movie, that didn't really stop me from having an absolute blast with it. I mean, just watching all these characters come together, it's total fun. They all react with one another. They work off each other very, very well, and it's great. And whenever Superman finally comes into the mix, it's freaking amazing. I was losing my mind at how wonderful Superman was. There is a line that Aquaman gives saying, whenever you resurrect someone, they lose something. Well, obviously, Superman just lost like all the doom and gloom that he had in his last two appearances. And now he's actually hopeful, and he smiles, and he cracks jokes, and it's wonderful. It's amazing. It's what Superman should have been from the freaking get-go, okay? A beacon of hope. That's what he has on his chest right here. It's an S, but it means hope, or maybe it's a river. I don't know. But it was wonderful to see Superman just being Superman, like being this bright beacon of hope. It was fantastic. I loved it. And like from a comic book fan's point of view, this movie is great. From a movie critic's point of view, it's kind of it's fine. It's not bad, but you know, I had a blast with it. I thought it was pretty fun. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but I think it's a fun film to just sit down, turn off your brain, and just kind of like let your inner child kind of take over and watch all these things happen, because it's pretty fun. It is a fun movie despite all its flaws and everything. I really personally enjoyed it. It exceeded my expectations. I was expecting complete garbage from this movie. I did not have any hope for it whatsoever. This movie proved me wrong. I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I thought. And who knows, maybe it's because of the very low expectations that I kind of enjoy it, but you know, that's just how it is. So yeah, Justice League, I give it a solid 7.5 CGI'd upper lips out of 10. Yeah. So there we go. Justice League. It's a fun time. I say maybe wait until the home release where they'll release the inevitable extended cut. I feel like that movie will be greatly expanded upon with that release right there. And it's probably the version of the Blu-ray that I'll pick up whenever this movie releases. But I mean, it's worth the watch. It's definitely not something that is absolutely horrible or appalling. It is for sure a step in the right direction for the DC cinematic universe as a whole. I think DC has a lot of very good potential, so let's hope that they keep up with these kind of movies. I mean, this movie was just an absolute blast, and if they can make like a great film that isn't bogged down by that 2-hour mandate, then they could have had something like really, really good. But I mean, hey, the movie's still pretty fun the way that it is right now. So, yeah, that's the end of. I guess that's the end of this. For now. I don't really have like an end title card or anything, but yeah. Bye. I guess.